And so it's a world of digitalization, AI, Internet of Things, as well as automation. That's our focus for today's discussion. How do businesses leverage on the many opportunities these technologies bring, and also make sure that their businesses see the light of day? My guest is Anthony Fesu, lead architect, digital change and enablement at Absa Bank Ghana Limited, and he is trying to help us really appreciate the issue of digital technology, what it encompasses, as well as all the various aspects of it. Thank you so much for joining us, Anthony. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much.
I trust you are well.
Very well.
We are meeting for the very first time.
Yes.
And I'm quite interested in your designation.
Yeah.
I see three things: lead architect, digital change, and enablement. If you can tell us what really you do at Absa.
Okay, so the architect role in Absa is part of technology role. It's a part of technology role that helps us to craft different services and products for the organization. You know that today our customers are anywhere and everywhere, and so we need to be able to craft digital services that the customers can have access to at any time, anywhere, and on any device.
I see, and it cuts across every aspect of the banking population.
Absolutely.
I see. And so today we are here talking about, the digital economy, trying to have a sense of what it's all about. And so if I ask you, what is a digital economy? How different is it from, the traditional economy we all know? And why should we even care about it in the very first place?
Okay, so like I said earlier on, digital is all about how we are using technology to do things a lot easier, a lot faster, and a lot better. And economy is about production, manufacturing, distribution, and trade, commerce, and things around that angle. And so digital economy, if you bring the two of them together, it's all about how we use technology to improve our production, how we use technology to acquire new customers, retain them, and make sure that the customers are happy with us.
So more or less like the economic value we get from, using digital technologies. And this will cut across from, let's say, right from production to distribution to, let's say, retailing or even marketing.
Absolutely, yes.
So we get to the final stage of, consumption. Exactly. And so it's not as if it's all about production.
Yes.
It's also cut across all these aspects. But, there is this thing I want us to talk about. I know if we are to talk about, for example, the component of the digital economy, there will be some key pillars, there will be some, focus or thematic areas. Are you able to explain what exactly forms the digital economy?
Okay, so if you break it down to the components level, there are different parts, and I'll touch on the infrastructure part. There is also platform, there are services. So infrastructure, where you are having the phone networks or the broadband networks, and those kind of things make up the infrastructure. Then you also have the platform side, where you have apps, AI apps, and then also smartphone apps. Then we have services, things like virtual banking, virtual payments. All those are services that we have. There's also another part like analytics also, which is one of the key parts that you can think about as part of the components that make up the digital economy. All of these come together to enable the economy to become better, to enable you to, retain customers, acquire new customers, and then engage the customers a lot better.
So you talk about analytics, you talk about, service, and you talk about infrastructure. Is it like a bottom-up approach or a top-down approach, or it's layered? I don't know if you get what I want to say.
Yes. So layered is one of the architecture terms, so I'm happy you have used that. So from a layering perspective, the bottom is the infrastructure.
Right.
It's the infrastructure, where you talk about servers, network, and today we have servers that are hosted in country. Some of them are on the cloud, meaning they are hosted in other countries, and it goes all the way from servers to the data to the applications, which is the apps, all the way to the services that you can run on.
Interesting point you make right there. But in terms of benefits of the digital economy to any business, is it that they are cutting costs? Is it that they are streamlining processes, or they are increasing revenue streams for a business who is yet to come to terms with the realization of what this whole digital economy is about? what does that business stand to gain at the end of the day if it incorporates, digital technology in its everyday today activities?
Okay, so let's bring it to the ground.
Right.
And think about somebody who is selling at Makola.
All right.
And selling, let's say, shoes at Makola. The person today has the opportunity to put the shoes on his status, on his WhatsApp status. That helps all his contacts to see the shoes. So if you are part of his contact, you are seeing the shoe. You can actually call him, you can engage him, you can ask him about the different types, the different colors. And so this person, without realizing it, has literally embedded digital into their business. That means that their process of acquiring customers has literally changed, has become more efficient, has become more easier by just using WhatsApp. And others are doing it on Facebook, others are also doing it on Instagram, and it goes on and on. I think that those are the basic ones that you can use. There are other ones like an ERP or something that you can use to manage your inventory as well. That will become so automating your processes, making your processes a lot better, acquiring new customers, engaging your customers to know even your customers' birthday, what kind of things they like. These are the benefits that organizations would gain.
And so with this example that you cite, I also hear you talk about WhatsApp and what have you. And so is it the channel or there are digital tools that businesses are using these days to, revamp their operations? So if I ask you, what are the current technologies that businesses are using in the context of the digital economy, what would they be?
Okay, so what I spoke about is way at the consumer side.
Right.
But you could actually walk back all the way from the consumer to the distributor, to the manufacturer, then to the producer. So if you are somebody who is producing yam, for example, you could actually know the weather. You could actually, there are tools that you could use to understand the soil sample, to know how much water will be, how much rain will be happening this year, so that you know what type of product to produce. So those tools, those agri-technologies would help you become a lot more efficient. So you don't plant blindly or plant by heart, as we say. From a manufacturing perspective, if I know the quality of product produced that is coming, then it literally tells me, or the season for the produce that are going to come, it literally gives me an idea what type of manufacturing process I should make available for those production to take place very well. And then also the distributors. If I know it's raining very well at some parts of the country, then I know when I should send my things, my items there before the rains, so that I don't have to encounter some of these problems. So at the end of the day, it is not, digital economy is not a strange thing or something that is
exactly
that is difficult to understand. It's about, we humans are looking for ways of making things a lot better. And like I told you earlier on, initially broadcasting information we're using gong beaters to broadcast information. And so Neil over here would have been a gong
beater.
Yes, but today we have something called Citi FM, and then that becomes the tool that you can use to broadcast information. And now we are not just broadcasting to people within your locality, we are broadcasting to the entire world because the tools.
Wonderful. I was just coming to the point where a lot of businesses see technology as, a monster. And so I was just about asking you how we demystify, the myth and, the fears associated with the use of technology. But in your everyday activity at the bank, what's your assessment of the readiness of businesses in adopting this kind of technological advancement and change, the transition? Okay. What's your thought generally about it?
Okay, so we see, the businesses that are using technology, it makes it a lot easier to work with them, because now you can understand what their business is really about. And if you have to provide financing for them, you have some data to work with, some analytics that you can say. So for example, if you are selling at Makola once again, and you have data about how many customers you have, how much is in your warehouse, how often you travel to bring in things, this makes it a lot easier for us at the bank to provide you the kind of services that you really need for your business. And so I would encourage a lot of businesses to look at, as they are looking at different ways of growing their business, we need to shift towards the technology and use that to get to more customers as much as possible.
I see. In your initial submission, I heard you talk about automation. I heard you talk about, digital service payment. And also, I don't know if you had mentioned AI, but, you had also mentioned infrastructure as one of the key pillars of, this conversation. Later on, we'll be talking about how to bridge the divide. But what is your assessment of the kind of digital infrastructure that we have as a country? Are you able to compare it with other countries, what other countries are doing, for which reason they are far advanced more than us? And also in terms of the regulatory framework, what picture do you see? So infrastructure and also the regulation.
Okay.
So two in one question.
Okay. So I would say that today, when you go to most parts of the country, you have access to internet.
All right.
Right? And that is a very positive thing. I've had the opportunity of traveling out of the country within Africa, and I can tell you that the fact that you can go to very remote places and still have access to Netflix means that you have access to some level of good quality infrastructure, which can be used by farmers and people who are trading in those areas. So this is extremely a positive thing that we have. Even though we, like old Vatris, we want it to get a lot better and a lot cheaper for us to use. I think that would be very fine. In terms of regulation, today we have Data Protection Act, we have Cybersecurity Act, and I think that, as usual, technology is always ahead of regulation. And so we, in the current dispensation, we have, I think that we have caught up very, very quickly and have provided a lot of infrastructure, even at the regulatory level, having SIM card registration, Ghana card, all of these have made the environment quite safe and governed, so that we are not just opening ourselves up for things. We are actually making sure that the environment is cool.
I like the fact that you talk about technology being ahead of regulation, but if I also ask you if there are any success stories, are you able to share anything with us? What are the emerging digital trends that SMEs are finding themselves in the current dispensation? Are there success stories like that?
Yeah, I think that I don't have the statistics, but in terms of the number of fraud cases that you've had, and then dispute cases in terms of I called, you didn't call. Now everybody knows that with the Ghana card, we can determine who called you and who didn't call. And so as an SME, if a customer calls you and says that he saw your item somewhere and has purchased the item, you can be sure that you can trace that customer through the Ghana card in case there's a dispute. So that's a very positive thing.
I see. Yeah, so with us here on the honor series of the Citi Business Festival, Anthony Fesu is lead architect, digital change, as well as enablement at Absa Bank Ghana, helping us unpack what the box of, the digital economy is. He's laid a foundation. When we come back, we'll be talking about how to deal with threats in the system, as well as how Absa is also shaping this whole movement. Do stay with us. Welcome back to the honor series of the 2025 Citi Business Festival. Just as I've told you, we are in our final week looking at technology. My guest today is Anthony Fesu. He is lead architect, digital change and enablement at Absa Bank Ghana Limited. The 2025 edition of the Citi Business Festival is powered by 97.3 Citi FM and ChannelOne Television. We are sponsored by Absa Bank Ghana Limited, MTN Business, and Zonda Tech. My name is Ni latte. Before we went on the break, Anthony, we were talking about how technology is way ahead of, regulation. And so in this context of, digital technology and how businesses must take advantage of it in terms of their everyday business activity, there are also risks. So, for example, for any good thing, there is a bad side. Yeah. And so what are some of the threats? I know data privacy will come in. Cybersecurity, lately we've seen a lot of businesses having their systems being exposed to, a lot of cybersecurity threats. Two things. How do small businesses ward themselves off against some of these threats? And what must the big companies with the huge data also be doing in this context?
Okay, so we have a term we use in the office.
Tell me about it.
We say the cybersecurity issues are a cancer to our survival.
Indeed, very cancerous.
Yes, so we need to do everything possible to reduce it or to take it out as much as we can. For small companies, I think because most of the small companies are dealing with data that is on their phones, on their personal devices, I think that these small companies have to be extremely careful on how they handle their phones. That's the first thing, because if anybody gets access to your phone, the person has access to a lot of information, your customer information, and can interact with any of your customers as much as possible. So small businesses who are currently relying on their phones for engagement should ensure that it's very safe. So luckily, most of the platforms like WhatsApp for Business and all these platforms have security features like OTP, like second factor authentications. You need to ensure that you have activated these security capabilities to ensure that your data is safe. Now, to the big companies that are keeping all of us our data, it is very recommended that they put in structures at different levels. So at the network level, where people may intrude, they need to ensure that they are preventing unauthorized accesses, like putting in things like firewalls and the like to ensure that we don't have unauthorized access. And then even when they are storing our data, they have to ensure that those sensitive data are encrypted, so that in case the person accesses the data and takes the data, because it's encrypted, they are not able to decrypt it and use it. It doesn't become meaningful. Another big one is where you have an attack called a ransomware attack, where people can literally either shut down your services or shut down your system and demand for a ransom before they open it up. This has become one of the biggest threats in the market, and it's actually very lucrative.
I can imagine.
Yes, I think that it is incumbent on us to ensure that we prevent unauthorized accesses to the systems.
And so if you put all of what you have said together, one may ask, is the digital literacy there? Maybe let me reframe the question. So in terms of building an inclusive digital economy for, businesses and consumers, and also trying as much as possible to bridge the divide, are there going to be mindset shifts? Are there going to be, skill set development in, bridging the gap? Having in mind that we are in an era of, generative AI, there's a fear of, job displacement. There is the fear of, even disruption when it comes to, the digital services. And so what's your take really on how to, put all of these things together for us to prepare for the years ahead?
Okay, so the mindset shift is something that we can talk about, but I want to put it into perspective. Yeah.
All right.
When our parents were using cutlasses to farm, when the tractors came in, they all thought that the tractors were going to take their job, only to find out that the tractors were not taking their jobs.
Augmenting their job.
But it was augmenting their job, making the farms, instead of it being a small farm, it was becoming a larger farm. And so to that, I would say that we as a country need to put digital as part of our students' curriculum, right down from, I think, if not below, I think from primary 6, you should put digital as part
Quite
of
an
it.
early age.
Yes, because this is the new way. This is the new way that we are all interacting with all the things we need on the supply chain. So, if you were going to get a job in 10 years' time, now, I don't think that if you don't know how to use a computer, you'll be able to get that job. And so, from a very early age, we need to ensure that we are training our young people and showing them the different parts of the digital technology and building up interest. And once this interest is built up, you find out that we can get that done.
Interesting how you are ending that. We have to, whip up the interest of, people at a quite an early age to ensure that they have a sense of what the digital economy is about. But we also see that the digital economy is what has given rise to, what has become known as like the gig economy, for example, where a lot of people, aside from their traditional 9-to-5, they see, are also trying as much as possible to tap into some element of the space to do other things, to get something small in their pocket. Is this something that is likely to continue?
Absolutely, absolutely. So people are, okay, those who have the understanding and have the tools and have the knowledge, your skill is becoming what you can use to earn money. And so if you have an organization that is either outside the country or even in the country and can seed a job to you, a job like even a call center job, you could actually close from work, going home, and decide to pick up calls at the call center, or even use your car and then sign up to one of our ride-hailing platforms and use your car as a ride and pick people up from your office back home. You find out that that becomes a new way of life. And those who are having restaurants and kitchens, they're not only serving people who are working there, they are signing up to food platforms, and then that gives them avenues to get to so many people. So for the gig economy, I think today most of our platforms in Ghana, you see that most of them are focused on payments, this pay, that pay, that pay.
Most of them are even into fintech.
Exactly. So my point is that we soon will realize that we need to be developing platforms for hospital, for telemedicine, platform for pharmacy, platform for all these other industries within the supply chain. And when that happens, we'll need more people to take part in that. And that's where people who are working in an office would have an opportunity to do.
But having said all of these, how is the financial space, I mean financial institutions, or maybe APSA, for example, helping in accelerating this whole movement that we are talking about? We always say that we can say all the good things, but if the funds are not available, it comes to naught. And so what's APSA's plan in the past few years? What have you been doing? What's the future looking like?
Okay, so that's a brilliant question, because my role involves...
exactly. Reason I said you were a big man.
in the making. Yes. So, for the past few years, you've seen that APSA has a mobile app. And our mobile app, we keep building on it. First of all, the whole idea was to give customers access to the app. And because of that, now customers can actually access or buy T-bills on the app. You can do transfers. So it means that 24/7, whether you're in the club or you need to pay somebody at any time of the day, you could actually issue that payment. We are going to be expanding all these services, getting more closer to the SME space, where we can have a lot of SME services also over there. So it's not only banking type transactions that you'll be having, but then you could actually book a ride or do other things that we are looking at doing. We are also looking at, we've had a lot of partnerships with different organizations, fintech organizations, because like you said, all this gig economy is underpinned by financial transactions. So when the gigs are building their systems, we provide them the digital capability to be able to move money on our rails as a bank, right? So that helps them not to worry about the financial safety and technology that they need to use, and that helps it to move very fast. You know, you let people be able to transact easily.
I see. So if I ask you, for example, in terms of percentage, how much should businesses allocate their, annual turnover, for example, to digital service provision or even digital service acquisition? How much in terms of percentage should they be doing that?
So companies are about acquiring customers. So if you have a growth plan of acquiring a certain number of customers, I think the quickest and easiest way of acquiring these customers is using the digital technology. Imagine if 40% of Facebook users become your customers. So if that is your plan, then you need to think about, it's not just about getting Facebook likes, it's about how do you translate those likes to become your actual acquired customers. And so from there, you have your budget and you know that I'm going to spend a certain amount of money on the technology, different parts of the money on the marketing and all of that. So you'll be able to figure out exactly how much percentage. But once you have that business plan of acquisition, your best bet is to do it through technology. That will give you an opportunity to grow.
I thought those were going to be your concluding remarks, but just in 60 seconds,
yes.
If I ask you to look into the crystal ball, for example, what future trends are you seeing, and how should young and upcoming entrepreneurs be preparing for what is likely to happen in the digital space, say in the next 3 to 5 years?
Okay, so looking in the crystal ball, I think that there's going to definitely be a lot of AI that's going to come in. There's definitely going to be blockchain. Oh, by the way, I'm excited that Bank of Ghana is also looking at
cryptocurrency.
and
it's happening somewhere in September. Exactly. They see the framework.
So that is something that is going to come on very, 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 very quickly, and most likely we would have to change a lot of our technology from being the normal to the using cryptocurrency. So digital is the way to go, and I think that all businesses, all persons should look at using digital to transform their business.
Right. Thank you so much, Anthony Fesu, lead architect, digital change and enablement. Digital is the way to go, he says, and we have just started off this week on technology. More to come here on the honor series of the 2025 Citi Business Festival, which is powered by 97.3 Citi FM and ChannelOne TV, sponsored by Absa Bank Ghana Limited, MTN Business, and Zonda Tech Ghana. I am Ni Latte. I'm so grateful that you stay with us. We will come your way same time tomorrow. Do stay with us here on 97.3 Citi FM and ChannelOne TV. Bye.